Hey folks, Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO. I hope you guys are having a rockin' afternoon. I tell you what, I'm excited. I'm excited about our sponsors. Our sponsorship is growing right now. My hat is off to Tyler Reagan, awesome guy. You can go check out his podcast, Life Giving Leader, over at Apple, all the big ones. But Tyler is just a phenomenal guy. Had been the executive director at Catalyst, somebody that I've learned leadership under. He's got this brand new organization, Life Giving Leader. You can go to lifegivingleader.com. Check out his podcast. Powerful, powerful stuff. Also, Ryan Chamberlain. You can go to ryanchamberlain.com. Ryan is running for U.S. Congressman in the state of Florida. He is a phenomenal, lifelong businessman, entertainer, musician, author, speaker, and a really phenomenal influencer in the direct selling arena. Man, I tell you what, this is the kind of guy we actually need in Congress, who understands the legitimate side of direct sales. And I'm going to be talking today a little bit because I'm seeing some really interesting activity going on. And I just want to look at something, because a lot of people ask this: can we truly trust the watchdogs, the consumer advocates, the regulators, myself? Can you trust people like Tina.org, Behind MLM, Business from Home, RealScam.com? The list goes on and on. You've got all these Consumer Report. You got all of these websites. You've got all of these organizations. You got the MLM watchdog that's over there. All of this stuff. Can you trust them? Can you trust DSN News, the direct selling news? Can you trust social selling news? These are questions that constantly come up. And what you hear from different groups, and I've heard this the whole time that I've been in public relations, we've been in risk management, a publicist, you hear this constantly from people. If you're getting paid, Troy, if you're a paid gun, then you've got a conflict of interest. I can't trust you. Okay, I understand that on the surface, that statement seems true. The same thing would run true. Hey, I get Consumer Report because they're a non-profit. They might be a non-profit, but they get a lot of free goodies. So you got to look at what is the true root motivation behind what happens. Let's take Behind MLM, top site. When I first started launching all of my internet presence, the guys that call themselves Oz was just getting started. He had Oz's soapbox, and then he started into Behind MLM. Didn't have any type of monetary way to sustain his website, but because he lived overseas, it wasn't a big deal. And then along comes Yahoo and Google, and you could do all of your ads. So it's like, hey, I can still hit all these companies, but I can do it in a way that, since I'm just getting click-throughs and I'm getting all this, I'm good. And that seems logical too, doesn't it? Except the more traffic that he generates to his website, the more money he makes through the click-throughs. So the question you could ask, okay, is he really caring about the people, or is he just looking for ways to generate revenue so he doesn't have to go get a real job? Think about that for a minute. Then you've got my good friend Ted Knighton over at Business from Home. Now, Ted's got a whole different business model. He's from the Netherlands. He runs a media company. He's rocking. So he's putting up press releases like crazy. He's generating all kinds of lists. He's got advertising going on. He sells PR spots on his website. Can you trust him? It's a great question, isn't it? Well, Troy, what about RealScam.com? They don't charge anybody. They're kind of like an old forum. I know I can trust them, right? Maybe. The question isn't who can you trust. The question is, are you truly doing your due diligence when you're going to all these websites? Why are you going to these websites? Are you going to the websites to try to validate what you feel in your heart? Let me grab one that won't piss too many people off. Let's look at telex free. Telexfree.com was really a reload program from the Zeke Reward days. It got to going, it exploded. Behind MLM probably was the lead site that just nailed these guys hard, really started bringing it out. And then we had a lot of crypto sites came into play, just good guys in crypto that started talking about, really started focusing in on whether this was a scam or not. Generated a lot of traffic. I believe a lot of people really wanted to get to the bottom of it, really wanted to get to the truth of it. And that is what Behind MLM is really the best at. Doesn't really do a good job when it comes to the actual direct selling models. Doesn't have a good knack on a lot of times of the compensation plan. So he just breezes through it. Very seldom. There are some times, very seldom at Behind MLM do you actually see a positive review on a company. Sometimes you will, but he really digs into the compensation. He digs into the past of people. And that part, I think, the digging into the background of people can be very good. It gives you an idea of what they were doing 2 weeks ago, so you can make a judgment call. But the compensation plans aren't as easy to dissect, and a lot of times I've seen him get them wrong. So people look at those sites, though. They look at his site, they look at tina.org. Tina's another one. Her motivation doesn't seem to be really protecting the consumer as it does, hey, can I get some kind of reward from the FTC? Can I get them to mention my name in the lawsuits and give me a thank you and say, oh man, thanks for giving me all this? Can I get some kind of a reward because I'm the one that filed the complaint? I uncovered it. I'm going to write my briefs. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I'm not even saying that tina.org does it all wrong either. I'm saying there's always a motivation. Think about this. You can be a nonprofit. You can call yourself .org, but who's paying your bills? See, everybody has bills to pay. Whether you're Troy Dooley, who has a marketing and PR firm and is a board of director on some other companies and has all that, I still got to pay the bills. But what you won't find, at least with me, is when I talk about a company, I want to talk about that company or I want to talk about that individual to get to the root cause of what we're dealing with. If prime example is that a couple weeks ago when the FTC brought out 10 letters against companies, they were great companies. I made that very clear, but we had to look at what was the root cause. The root cause was, in most cases, people that were using COVID-19 or the coronavirus in their marketing. Some of the marketing it didn't cross the line. I later put up a video from AAG, which is you can see Tom Selleck in these commercials. They're a reverse mortgage company, and they literally right on their ad talk about, we can protect you from COVID-19. How can getting a reverse mortgage protect you from COVID-19? Except financially, it might help you out of a bind a little bit. There's totally it's a great ad. But what happened was, now we see that there's at least one website that's got this complete page that says COVID-19 scams, and they've got legit companies listed on this thing just because of those letters. There's always a motivation behind what's going on. Let's go back to Ted at Business from Home. Ted is purely a businessman. He found a niche, and he has filled that niche. Whether you like it or not, you can go to Ted's site, and he's got all kinds of statistics. He's got all kinds of press releases. You can pay for advertising. You can pay to have your press release up there if something really big happened. I have told him, and he knows this, man, I think you cross the line sometimes because you're showing these people's incomes, and that's against the rules and regulations in the United States. And he smiles with that quirky smile of his and says, I'm in the Netherlands, what do I care? Everybody has a motivation, but it doesn't mean that the information that they're putting out is bogus information. It doesn't mean that it's a lie. It doesn't mean that they're just a hired gun. It doesn't mean that you can't trust them. It means that you got to take a little bit of the information from any website that you go to, any magazine that you pick up, any regulator that you see. When a regulator says in a press conference, well, we just nailed Advocare for being a pyramid scheme, that's an allegation until which time there's a settlement. And a lot of people say, Troy, why don't you hit all these scams? Just because I think it's a scam doesn't mean the courts will agree with me. And that's the reason we don't do that, is because we don't want to be held liable for something. We don't want to think, oh, man, I must have missed something, or I didn't miss something. So when you guys are looking at all these websites, when you're out there trying to use these websites against who you think your competitors are, you need to remember that the same thing can happen to you. And it does all the time. As distributors, I think this is very, very important. Your name can be tied to the word scam, pyramid, Ponzi scheme, the company that you're working with, and end up on these websites. So when you're out there trying to get a job, or you're working with somebody, or somebody's doing due diligence on you, they may end up on the very websites that you guys promote all the time against your competitors, and literally find your name right there, listing you on the scam page because it was your actual post that one of these websites took to use against an Herbalife or an Amway or any of these companies, but your name is tied right to it. And that's the scary part right there. And that's where you guys, maybe you don't think it's important, but you need to be focused on your own reputation management in social media, on the internet, all of that stuff, because all of that ties into your business, not just today, but 5, 10, 15 years down the road. It has been almost, let's see, it was 2012 when Zeke Rewards was shut down by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So 2012 is when my name got tied to this Ponzi scheme because I was an advisor to the company. In 2013, when I settled for an infraction with the SEC and paid a few $1,000s, that started a whole new ball game. And today, in 2020, you can still type just Troy Dooley into Google, and usually within the first 2 pages, you will find something from some website where they have said Troy Dooley worked for this scam company. Stuff that happens always stays with you. How you let it affect you, how you work with it, how you work with your reputation around it, how you address it will be what pushes you forward and pushes you straight on. But when you look at people that call themselves consumer advocates, people that call themselves watchdogs, people that call themselves regulators, people that say they're here for the people, you need to look deep to find out the motivation, and you need to ask one big question. Number one, is this how they pay their bills? Now, when you look at our websites and everything else, we make full-blown disclaimers. You know, if it's one of our PR sites, we're very clear. Look, this is all public relations. If it's something that we truly are doing from a wisdom journalism side, we make it very clear we're not taking any money for the reviews that we're doing over here. This is very important. They're not clients. We're just covering something. We're very straightforward in what we do, but I got to pay the bills. I work with a lot of companies. We do a lot of risk mitigation. I've got some great partners over at the Red Flag Company and Potential that we do a lot of PR stuff with, a lot of social media. There's a lot of stuff we do, and I make it very clear. I got kids at home. I got to pay the bills. When you look at a website that says .org on it, don't be deceived into thinking that's some nonprofit educational-based company, because everybody that works for them has bills to pay too. And the organization has to have bills paid. So either somebody's donating money that has a cause, or else they're finding ways to get money, whether that's turning companies into regulators and hoping they get some type of a fee for doing that, or in some cases, somebody might be paying them to go out there and find information on that company. So do your due diligence, dig deep, look at all the different websites that are out there before you just take what they say as gospel. Do due diligence. Ask me. If you see me do something on the internet, say, hey, Troy, is this a client? I didn't hear you say if they're a client or not. I'll be more than happy to answer that question. Guys, have a great afternoon. And I tell you what, things are getting back to normal. We got people on the beach. So have fun. We'll see you tomorrow.